Hello everybody, welcome to Tier 2 of the 2023 ELF wide receiver lists. If you haven't seen Tier 1 already, it's on the channel page and it's about 40 minutes long, but definitely worth a watch to get a little bit more context into where players have fallen so far and a little bit overall about what their series entails. So let's just get straight into it with Tier 2. Hope you enjoy and thank you very much. As mentioned in the last video, the Tier 2 is kind of built up at the highest level of the European imports and the homegrown players. These players are all extremely talented. Some players I'm expecting to take a step up from last season. Some players I'm expecting to just kind of stay where they were in that 600 to 800 kind of yard range. And I expect them to be like the second player in that receiving core in terms of production. Kicking us off is Schneider, who I actually have had a previous video about on this page about 3 years ago. If you want to look into that, kind of gives a retrospective to how far he has come in his career. He was the 2022 Rookie of the Year for the ELF. He had 629 yards and 8 touchdowns, which led the team in both categories. He had a 67.21% on catch rate. I think that will have to improve in terms of taking that step up into being a Tier 2 receiver. He had 15.34 yards per catch, which is very good, and I do see him as that slot specialist with, that safe first down option. He is 5'8", about 180, so he does lack a little bit of size for that outside, but for the inside routes, he is perfect. He has great bend, great quickness, creates a lot of separation from his man. I think very highly of Schneider, and I think that he's going to take that step up, even though he already got, nearly 650 yards. I think that he does take that step up into possibly edging into 700 with the Raiders signing Sandro. I'm interested to see how that affects his numbers, but, it could also work in reverse. There's so much attention on him that he gets more of an opportunity to shine. So we shall see how that plays out. But Schneider is absolutely a Tier 2 wide receiver. Staying in Austria for this one, Buer is going to be my next player on this tier. He finished last season with 680 yards, also on a 67% catch rate, which was 39 catches out of the 58 he was targeted, and totaled 6 touchdowns. He is a European Championship gold medalist, and he's second team All ELF. He was also pick 8 in the 2019 CFL Global Draft and spent a little bit of time there with the Red Blacks. He has great burst on his release, and he's a quick mover. He has good eyes and deep threat potential, and he high points the ball really, really well. I think with Jordan, he is the definition of a Tier 2 receiver. He is excellent. He's very talented, and he is like the perfect player to have under an American, because I think as far as a European wide receiver goes, he is an elite level player, and I think that with him and Weston Carr and another player we'll get to in a minute, he is just very lined up for another season of very similar production, and I think that 700 range that he was so close to is definitely achievable if he can get his catch rate up. 67, you want it to be above 70 realistically, and I think he was slightly under targeted. 58 targets isn't an unbelievable amount, so I think if he gets more opportunities, because he is more of a deep threat player, so if he gets more shallow routes, more like intermediate routes, I think that he could see a jump in his numbers. But I guess we'll see how the Vikings choose to line him up this season. Buer is next on my list, and I think it's a little bit controversial having him here, since he could easily transition to tight end considering his injury last season. I think that he probably will stay outside as a receiver because he is just so big. He's got a massive frame. He's about 6'5", 6'6", depending on the source, and 250 pounds. It is the obvious elephant in the room that he was injured all of last season, bar 3 games. He played 3 games, got 3 touchdowns on 216 yards and a 75% catch rate, which was 12 out of 16 balls thrown his way. He is so big, and his catch radius is so long that he is incredibly hard to cover. And Also incredibly hard to bring down. 250 pound, 6'5", 6 man is not easy for a 5'10", 5'11", 200 pound DB. He has a positional flexibility. He can play on either side, outside. He can come in close to the line and play as a tight end. He has great eyes for the ball. He's strong in his hands too. Like, a DB could be all over him because he isn't particularly the speediest receiver in the league, but it doesn't really matter. Like, he's so physically big, and he's got such strong hands that he can just take the ball from the DB. If he can come well off that injury, it did happen earlier last season, which kind of gives me hope that he's had the proper rehab to get back into the swing of things, and hopefully he can continue his production, because last season he was playing really, really well. So I'm expecting him to come back strong. I'm hoping he can come back strong, and yes, I'm a big fan of Florian. I think that he has such a high ceiling. He could easily be in tier 1 if he put out an excellent season this year. Anton Jali is the first player, I believe, from Heltavik that we have covered so far. They've been a little bit inconsistent with keeping their receivers so far, so Anton Jali is definitely a player that I am expecting to be a big part of that team, since they've lost a few key contributors. I'm also expecting a big jump in productivity. He was last season's Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he only got 208 yards, 3 touchdowns in 10 games and a 68.42% catch rate. But I'm expecting that to go up. He's still a young guy. He has more than enough time to steadily increase his numbers over the seasons come. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. He has such a long radius. He's a good short route runner as well, considering his size. He takes contact really, really well, which kind of means that he has capability to play all over an offense. A good short route runner who is also 6'3" and 215 pounds is a very hard person to game plan against. He doesn't have that breakaway speed, like that's super fast, but he does have the physical gifts to be a possession receiver. Like, easily could come across to the 10-15 yard line, pick up the first down, move the chains. He's good inside and outside. So I think that he will be a huge part of the team in Switzerland's success this season, and I'm expecting him to double his yards and touchdowns. And I don't think that would be too hard for him to do. I definitely think he has the talent to do so. Next up, we have one of my personal favourites on this tier, Harlan Quofi from the Rhine Fire. He finished last season with 709 yards on 7 touchdowns in 41 catches. He only played 11 games and started 8, and only had a 62% catch rate, which is definitely going to have to improve if he wants to continue those numbers, especially with the amount of weapons that Ryan has. I think that his catch is 41. He'll probably stay around that, maybe fall a little bit due to the amount of players in Rhine of a high quality. But I think that he can certainly do better than that if he puts himself in those positions. He's a former IPP invite. He's a 17.29 yards per catch player. So he's obviously got the big play potential. He's big, he has a long frame. He's not necessarily a route technician. He's definitely able to get deep on DBs because of his frame and because of his stride length. So I think that he'll kind of stay around that 700 range, but he's absolute. If he was on another team, he gets 1,000 yards. Like, he's that good. But it's just because, Ryan have so many good players that his numbers are going to fall a little bit, and he tends to drop balls. However, I think that if he puts the work in this offseason and he gets it up to like 70% catch rate on maybe 40 catches and 17 yards per catch, that's going to be, he's going to definitely eclipse the 800 yard mark. And I think that he has such a high potential considering he's so young. And I think that he could be a serious contender as one of the better homegrown receivers in this league. Earlier in the last video, I mentioned how Milan really favour their quicker, shorter, faster wide receivers when it comes to the more like slot preferenced players. And that's the same here with Sears. He is joining them from the New York Lions. Last season in 2022, he had 370 yards on kickoff return, 910 in total for 48 catches and 516 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he definitely has, good productivity. He's a very smooth route runner. He extends the play really, really well, so he'll get the ball short and he'll just kind of find little creases to pick up another 3, 4, 5 yards. Like, he's not going to take it to the house. He has the potential to, but more often than not, he's just picking up the first down. He's really fast, really twitchy. Great slot option for Milan. I think it'll give a lot of respite for Jean as well, given that they can both play the slot. They can both have outside potential, but I definitely think that Tim Sears is best used in that slot where he can really utilize his speed and quickness on linebackers. If he's on some kind of like a zig route or whatever you want to call it in terms of coaching terminology, where he comes inside and then comes out and receives the ball and can turn upfield, I think that will be a key point in his game. And I predict him to get definitely over 500 yards that he got last season in GFL. I think he'll probably hover around, like the 700, 800 yard mark, especially with the emphasis I feel that Milan are going to have on a fast passing game. They got a lot of running backs that seems to be by committee, and I think that Luke's going to want to get the ball out quickly and effectively, and then the yards are just going to be picked up through rack. So I'm excited to see how he can perform in Milan. We are heading outside the line for this one on Louis Gaia, the new member of the Stuttgart Surge, obviously returning after his rookie year last year, in which he won Rookie of the Year. He has 1,137 career yards in the ELF and 12 touchdowns on 22 career games, spent last year in Cologne. He has only a 47.92% career catch rate, which will need to improve. Like, he has not got the best rate. Last season, he had 687 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 50% catch rate. He's clearly added a lot of muscle between his years in the ELF. Like, you look at him in his rookie, you look at him now, he looks great. He's clearly added a lot of muscle. He is a physical blocker. He takes a lot of pride in that. You can see that from his tape, that he is a strong guy. He has good hands on the blocking. He is a decent tracker of the ball and speed-wise, but he doesn't really take the ball in stride. You see him over the middle or on like a fade, and he'll receive the ball, and he'll kind of just be more focused on getting his feet down and inbounds, rather than running and taking the ball in his stride and carry on his run, which is fine as a possessional receiver, but in order to be a possessional receiver, you need to have over 50% catch rate. And I think that he should be able to address that in this offseason. And if he can, he's definitely got it right in this tier 2. Because of his size, because of his versatility in the run game with blocking, I think that he can be this. But it's absolutely imperative that he gets that catch rate up. Another member of the Surge up now in Yannick Maya. He played 7 games last season with the Raiders in 2022 and had 385 yards and 5 touchdowns. He only caught 21 balls for 61.76, but had 55 yards per game. He also has played for the Unicorns in the past and got 27 catches for 531 yards and 8 touchdowns with an average of 19.7 yards per catch, and also in addition had 350 yards on kick return. So he has not historically played that many games in a season, so I kind of want him to, I'm expecting him to play more this year now that he's on the Surge. With the amount of weapons they have as well, he should be able to free up a lot of space. He is a smooth route runner. He isn't lightning fast, but he is smooth. Like, his feet run well, but just not necessarily as fast as other receivers. He's not afraid of contact. He's more than happy to take it over the middle, or dive for the goal line. He's also varied on his inside and outside concepts, which increases his value a lot. So and those route kind of translates to that as well. So he is able to run these short and medium and long routes, and he's effective on all of the footwork and the nuances of that. So he is more of a technician than another player like Lewis or like other Surge receivers who we'll get to later in this project. But he's not necessarily at that speed. He is more of a possessional receiver than Lewis is, and I think it shows. He averages 61%, which is not great for a catch rate, but he's able to find the end zone. He is able to kick return, And again, his fluidity and movement helps him exploit kick returns, especially with his vision. He has great vision with the ball after the catch. And I think he's quite a hyped player to come into it as well. Last season he played 7 games and he was good in those 7 games. So I think people are expecting big things from him coming into this next season. Coming in next is Remy Berthelon. I apologise for my French pronunciation if that is wrong. But he is a former Dragon and ELF All-Star who is returning to Paris this season. In the ELF, he had 750 yards on 47 catches and 7 touchdowns, but he did that in only 9 games. He had a 55.95 catch rate, and he's performed well in those. Again, you kind of seeing a recurring of just below 60 to 65% on the catch rate of all these players, but he has the production and he is an ELF All-Star, so he is already an established player. He has very solid cuts, he's explosive, his route running is very good. He's a technician when it comes to his route running. I want to do a full breakdown on his route running. It's really, really good. He uses his hands really well to get off coverage as well, like press coverage or even off coverage. Once he comes and meets a defender, he even used a swim move at one point to get past a defender, which was crazy. He adjusts really, really well to the ball as well. He has great body control and is more than happy to put his body on the line to make the play. But he is one of my favorite route runners in the league, and I'm super excited to see what he can do. And obviously he's reuniting with a lot of his Barcelona teammates in Paris. So they already have that connection, and I think that he's just gonna straight away become one of the better homegrown players in the league. And I expect him to go over his 750 yards, especially if he can play more than 9 games. And yeah, I think he's extreme. In my book, he's one of the more hyped players for me to come back into the league. And I'm expecting him to perform at an extremely high level. The last player of this tier is Theodor Landstrom from Barcelona. He fits into that long, kind of rangier player as well, similar to Jahali and obviously Swedish teammate. He is 6'4" and 210 pounds. He isn't the fastest receiver, but because of his size and his length and his catch radius, he is, a deep threat. He has very good tracking. He's very good in contact as well, even if a player's, it's on all over him with clear PI, or if, he's getting hit while trying to take the ball in, he's able to bring it in. He is a very good route runner. He has good short route running and good long route running. And his release package is very varied as well. You see sometimes with these deep threat guys, they just, go. And, they don't really mix it up or try and make it look like they're trying to do anything else other than a deep route. But Theodore's different. He will throw in these inside feints to get the leverage on the receiver, put them off balance before coming out into this long route. He stems as well on his routes. And I think that he will be an underrated part. Barcelona have gone quite under the radar because of the loss of players. But as I'm recording this, they just have more investment, so you never really know what they're going to bring. And I think Theodor Landstrom is a very good progressive signing in terms of balancing their offense with several different ability players. They have their smaller, faster guys, they have their lengthier guys, and they got a QB that can spread the ball out well. So I think that Theodor Landstrom is a excellent player, and I expect him to eclipse his yards. Maybe eclipse his yards. He had 889 and 9 touchdowns in the AFL last season. So we'll see kind of where he falls in terms of that. I think he'll probably hover around 750 and maybe 8 or 9 touchdowns because of his size in the red zone. He could be very efficient. And yeah, excited to see what he can bring for the team. And that concludes tier 2 of this list. It's a lot shorter. It's a lot more exclusive than tier 1. And believe me, this will be the last short one that we have in this series. The rest of these are extremely long, some of them totaling, I believe, over 50 players. We have tier 3, 4, 5, and 6 coming up, so stay tuned for that. I appreciate you watching this video. A little bit more digestible and it's a little bit shorter. I understand that some people might not want to watch a 40-minute video, which I completely get. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable on camera now. These are getting out a little bit more quickly and a little bit more easily without so many mistakes. So I appreciate the patience and the support on the last video was crazy as well. So, moving forward, we have the tier 3 receivers, and then if I might do some other positions with this kind of format, but maybe limit it to like the top 50 players and then put the top 50 players into tiers. Otherwise, I don't think I'll be able to get this out throughout the season. I also think that I'm going to do some kind of Brett Coleman, kind of analyzing football, kind of thinking football, those YouTube channels that do breakdowns on certain players, certain like systems and defenses and coverages. And I want to put stuff like that out during the season because I think there is a little bit of hole of this market in Europe, and I really want to take it over. I'm a scout by trade. It's what I spend all of my day doing, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And I think that kind of comes from my work. This isn't sponsored by the league, even though it could be. If the league wants to hit me up for it, but this is just me doing it for the love of the game. And I appreciate everyone who has tuned in to watch. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.